All right, this is kind of the second part we're segueing into about Independence Day and July 4th, and we talked about how, it was just a very auspicious sign to have our court date, the ECETI court date, on July 3rd, being Independence Day is the following day. And, with all these things, you never know if you're going to have your independence, or sometimes you might end up behind bars. But on the next day, but looks like the independence came through, and we're all free. I want to give my heartfelt thanks to Spencer and Nate here, and they've helped immensely with this process. Kurt Flowers, Johnny Sunday also, who is now in need of our prayers and assistance, and if anybody can send him a few frog skins, it'd be great to help him with this process. But I mean, these guys
maybe a shout to Dean too.
Yeah, Dean Clifford too. Dean Clifford tried to come here and give a talk at the ECETI Ranch, and in doing so, he was going to pull everything out of the bag and use all of his skills to actually cross the border with no passport, no driver's license, no license plate. Just a Bible and some affidavits, I believe. And
he'd done a process on it.
Yeah,
and he had his accepted live birth record.
Yeah, accepted live birth record, and that was it. And so he was detained for, I guess, about 6 hours, and then he got pulled over leaving, and so he had to deal with that thing. But he's still free and doing his thing. Yeah. And sticking to his guns. So there's a lot of these pioneers that are just stepping up to the plate, and that's what this is all about, Independence Day. So, it's all about becoming sovereign, and we talked about how we need to be sovereign on every level. But this particular one is about the court case that we've been dealing with, and we dealt with on the 3rd. And to give people a brief synopsis or a heads up on what happened, which was just amazing. And I'm going to step back and let Nate and Spence kind of give you a preview of what happened from their perspectives. You heard my perspective already in the first episode, and we'll take it away from there.
Yeah. Well, I guess we wanted to be clear. Like, this wasn't to gloat about it or anything like that. But it went pretty positively. Mm-hmm. And I guess, one of the things that we wanted to just kind of look into how this stuff is so empowering, and kind of the spiritual side of this in some regards. One of the things that kind of stood out to me, I didn't actually physically hear this said, but I heard about it after the fact. While we were waiting and getting ready to go into court, we had quite a bit of support. I don't know how many people came out, but 30, something like that, and but enough to fill the hallway outside of the front doors to go into the courtroom, and spilling over past the front of where the court clerk's little station was at. And we all just went in there feeling really empowered and in high spirits. And one of the clerks, or one of the people that works there, apparently remarked and was like, "I have never seen this many happy people waiting to go into court."
Right.
And so, yeah, that must have been kind of interesting for them.
The bailiff, too, was interesting.
The bailiff was interesting, too. I mean, I think he was a little
overly prepared for tension?
Or conflict, or it seemed like he was a little nervous, but all of us, went up to him and made eye contact, and we're just, "Hey, brother, how's it going?" Just kind of reassuring him, "Hey, man, I'm not here to give you a hard time or to do anything that's unlawful, man. We're here handling some business and standing up for our rights." That's,
some admin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I don't know, Spence, what are your insights after going through the deal yesterday?
My insights, I guess, I think a lot. I was surprised to hear how many people were of the opinion that when you handle a matter yourself, you're trying to be lawless,
Mm-hmm.
and to try to bucking the system is also going against the grain, going against every grain.
Mm-hmm.
And it help me out with what.
Well, I noticed with the all rise, that's a good example. When we didn't rise because you're contracting. When you rise, you're making an agreement. And a lot of people are really fearful about not rising. And they go, what's going to happen to me? You know, am I making a statement against the authority? And am I going to create a negative scenario? And there's a lot of fear around that. A lot of fear around just sitting there, you know, and not even be charged with anything else, and just sitting there and not obeying.
Yeah. Well,
you know, so that was interesting.
And some people took it as rising. They knew what it was, and they said that the rising was merely showing respect for the court.
That's what they thought.
That's what they thought, and they were decisive about it, and they knew what it was for.
Mm-hmm. They thought they knew what it was for.
They thought they knew what it was for.
That's the conventional, what we've been ingrained to think that's going on.
Right. Without having knowledge of what that is, just kind of perceiving that by general assumption and folklore kind of knowledge.
So when they're giving you an order or telling you to do something, you had a really good story about where this guy was really holding his own or something. And there's a toothpick story. Could you go into that? That's a good analogy of the situation.
Sure. In court, if you follow an order, you're granting jurisdiction. You're granting them the okay to proceed. And maybe that's not always how you might want to handle the situation. And a guy was in court, and his angle that he wanted to take was to challenge jurisdiction. And on his way out, he successfully had shown the court that they didn't have jurisdiction. And right as he got to the door, the judge yelled, "Take that toothpick out of your mouth." And when he did, the bailiff jumped on him and arrested him, and they threw him in jail right at the door, right on the way out. And it wasn't anything he said, it's what he did. He followed an order. They said do something, and he did it. Therefore, he gave him jurisdiction. And then they grabbed him for contempt of court. So, but I guess what I was thinking was people are dead certain of what's going on, just based on perception, without real knowledge. Without real knowledge.
And one of the things that I want to go into really quickly is that, you know, we're not felons. You know, we've harmed no one. We're not doing anything out of the ordinary here. All we're doing is being, you know, holding a very loving, service-oriented space, hanging out with our friends and family, administering to people's needs, and doing it in a very loving, spiritual way. And so no harm is coming to anyone around having any kind of healing, you know, doing any kind of healing practices here or gatherings. There's no victims, there's no harm, there's nothing. And so
it's all in a private capacity, and so that's your right. You're well within your rights to do that.
And yet criminal charges.
Yeah, and although, you know, in the city council meeting, you know, I was told that I didn't have the right to privacy, I didn't have the right to assembly, I didn't have the right to practice my spiritual beliefs, and I had no right, even freedom of speech. You know, all of those rights were in a way denied because of some ridiculous little rules and regulations. And it's time that we all stand up for those basic, unalienable rights. You know, you can call them constitutional rights, but I'd go beyond that. These are God-given rights, and you're not. You can talk about that. We're not really a person. We're a live man. You know, versus a person, then you're under the jurisdiction of the judicial system or whatever.
Yeah, all the statutory charges you have to consent to them. You have to agree to want to be a part of that program. And then from that step forward, all regulations that are statutory in nature are a breach of contract when you go against them. And so things like driver's licenses and seatbelt laws and whether or not you're using a cell phone while you're in your car, all those kind of things are, you agreed not to do them.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you do, now you're in breach of contract. And so the three things that you're only ever held to three things is you can't cause damage or injury, you can't cause conflict and breach of the peace, and then the third thing is you have to honor your own agreements.
Mm-hmm.
And so those agreements are very hidden in invisible contracts. Sometimes they're called or adhesion contracts, and you didn't know they were there. And so when you're in breach of those, a lot of times people want to address the merits of the charge, and the real remedy is, hey, wait a minute, where's my agreement that said I wouldn't do this?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really the first olive out of the jar.
Yeah.
Is where's my agreement that I said I wouldn't wear a seatbelt or not wear a seatbelt? Right? That's, no one has authority over you to say that. And I think people are so ingrained to not question status quo, but they question what threatens the status quo, and that's what keeps those hidden little gems hidden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think too. A lot of people just are really saying, "Well, what happened?" You know, they're going, "Well, what happened at the court?" And I guess a brief synopsis, and I feel free to jump in if I'm missing something. But this was our 5th court appearance, and it's getting beyond ridiculous now. But
Just for arraignment, not for trial.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten past the arraignment stage yet. But yeah, it's just been crazy and over just ridiculous things and making up infractions that don't exist, even by their own laws. They actually change their own
Regulations.
Regulations. And even by their own regulations, when we show them, hey, we haven't broken any rules or regulations here, again, they don't even go by their own regulations. So it's been demonstrated over and over again. So anyway, basically all we're doing is ECETI just wants to continue in peace and harmony, and as a private residence, and administer to those friends and family who come for healing or information or whatever. And basically that's all we're doing. It's like it's a total no harm process. And there are certain elements that would like to see that not happen or discontinue.
Yeah.
And that's what we're dealing with basically. And it's just gotten so ridiculous. It's gone beyond ridiculous. They're in default. They've screwed up all along, procedural errors all the way through this. 2 judges have been recused and dismissed.
So have 2 attorneys.
Yeah, and 2 attorneys, and the prosecuting attorney quit. You know, and so